Steve Andreas, Six Blind Elephants, page 231. These three different categories of meaning indicate the scope of what someone is attending to, and they also indicate the scope of what they are not attending to, or attending to less and taken for granted. Someone who typically attends to cause-effect often ignores both the simultaneous aspects of an experience in the moment and the context. In my earlier example of returning my date to her home in the rain, I was thinking of the consequences of walking with her 3 blocks in the rain to her door, and me 3 blocks back in the rain. So I considerately pulled up in front of the door. That way she would only get a little wet, and I wouldn't have to get wet at all. However, she was attending to her equivalents for courtesy or respect, and image of me walking her to the door. So she thought I was being rude and inconsiderate. This could also be described as her attending to the relationship context, being on a date, while I was responding to the physical context, the pouring rain. Even when two people have known each other for years, when they decide to make their relationship permanent by getting married, they almost always find that they have significantly different equivalents for their new life as a married couple. Someone who attends primarily to context is likely to ignore the simultaneous meaning in the moment and the future consequences. For instance, someone who refuses to reveal private matters to the doctor or therapist, even though they are on the brink of suicide, is not paying much attention to the consequences. Every event will include all 3 elements: cause-effect, equivalence, and context. This is also true of any writing, including this chapter about how we create meaning. Every sentence is an attempt to evoke certain scopes of experience in the reader's mind, and then link them together in a context, either simultaneously in space, using the words is or means, or sequentially in time, using words like cause, results, makes, elicits, etc. When someone attends to all these 3 ways of creating meaning, that provides full information for evaluating a situation and making a good decision. If we ignore one or more of these 3 different aspects, we may categorize and respond inappropriately. When we know how someone else represents an event, we can begin to understand how they categorize it and create meaning, and draw their attention to the scope of what they are not attending to. Even when someone rejects a meaning that we offer them, in order to reject it, they had to at least consider it for a moment. That presupposes that there are other possible meanings, even though we haven't yet found one that is acceptable. Sensory experience or category. Another structural variable in the creation of meaning is the difference between using a specific scope and a category. The first experience X is usually a specific scope, real or imagined, that most people would agree on. A good night kiss, a job interview, a date, a verbal comment, etc. The first experience X is usually a specific scope, real or imagined, that most people would agree on. A good night kiss, a job interview, a date, a verbal comment, etc. But X can also be a category of experience, such as man, accidents, flowers, etc. Homes are burdens. Travel broadens your perspective. The second experience, Y, is an internal representation of the perceived effect, equivalence or context that gives meaning to X. It can also be either a particular scope, remembered or imagined, or a category. Since both X and Y can be either a specific scope or a category, there are 4 possibilities. To clearly illustrate the difference between scope and category in this context, it is helpful to contrast the extremes. Let's compare 2 examples of cause-effect. One in which X and Y are both sensory-based, and one in which both are categories. Imagine that you are eating dinner, and someone says something to you. Pause to notice how your internal images of these sentences are structurally different. Imagine that you are eating dinner and someone says something to you. Pause to notice how your internal images of these sentences are structurally different. Okay, I believe it's... I don't know. It is possible that this sentence speaks about the next 2 sentences and asks us to pause after we read next 2 sentences. Holding your knife is the way will make it slip and cut you. Holding your knife in that way will make it slip and cut you. Carelessness causes injuries. Carelessness causes injuries. Injuries. Yeah. Okay, now let's pause and notice how my internal images of these sentences are structurally different. Holding your knife in that way will make it slip and cut you. Those 2 sentences could describe the same event, but your experience of them is different. If no difference is immediately apparent to you, alternate between the 2 sentences to increase the contrast. Carelessness causes injuries. Holding your knife in that way will make it slip and cut you. If the first sentence, both experiences are specific sensory-based scopes, you can easily make a detailed movie of what it means, a short movie of a sharp knife slipping and cutting your hand. In the second sentence, your images are much less detailed, because both words refer to general abstract categories of experience. My image of this sentence is two misty clouds linked by an arrow. Each of these clouds contains many different examples, and I don't yet know which one would be best to use as a prototype to indicate what the sentence means. The category carelessness includes many different sensory-based behaviors, from being inattentive to reckless abandon. The same is true of the category injuries. There are many different kinds of injuries, with very different consequences. My clouds are a way of indicating all these many different sensory-based possibilities. Until I select one of them, the clouds for carelessness and injuries are only vague bits of mist. The sentence, carelessness causes injuries, is a linkage of two misty uncertainties, so the meaning of whole sentence is even less certain than either one alone. This kind of uncertainty is an inevitable consequence of using abstract categories, and that is why government advertisements that say smoking causes cancer are not very effective in convincing people to stop smoking. Although smoking is fairly specific, cancer is a large category that contains a wide variety of illnesses. Unless someone has had direct experience of someone dying of cancer, it will be presented by a very abstract image that won't be very impactful. I can easily understand the general meaning of the sentence, but it is not very vivid or compelling. Depictions of cancer in the movies are usually sanitized, so they don't provide a good representation of what that is really like. I certainly don't experience that sentence in the specific way that a smoker who has cancer does. In Europe, posters and billboards use very graphic and unpleasant photos of people who are dying of cancer, offering more compelling sensory-based images of the consequences. Often, an experience causes this kind of change from an unconvincing generality to a compelling specific image. My mother was a smoker for many years, and though she had low blood pressure most of her life, she finally developed high blood pressure in her 70s. As a result, she knew intellectually that smoking was a cause of the high blood pressure, and that it could cause illnesses. But her images of this meaning were not specific and compelling enough to change her behavior. Then, when she had a stroke, her images of those consequences, inability to speak or move half of her body, became very compelling. She stopped smoking cold turkey, with no symptoms of withdrawal, but of course the damage had been already done. Effective advertising pairs specific images. A photo of beautiful woman next to a new car provides a specific vivid image of what the advertisers wants the car to mean. That is much more impactful than a general statement like, "Get this new car to attract a woman." Change in significance. Changing the meaning of an experience has often been called reframing. Using the metaphor of changing the frame or larger context in order to change the scope of what someone attends to within that frame. One of the results of framing any images is to focus our attention on what is inside the frame and exclude or reduce the significance of what is outside the frame. Although the metaphor of physical frame is very appropriate when thinking of a scope in space, it has a number of limitations. A frame is usually understood to limit space, and that diverts our attention from the equal or greater importance of time. That reduces the likelihood that we will think of how we can also change a scope of time to change significance. Scope is a more general term that directs us to attend to both time and space, and how we can change either one to change meaning. The reframing metaphor also doesn't point out how changing the frame often results in changing how we categorize what is in the frame. When my friends placed their elegant gold leaf frame over the dirty ragged vent hood hole over their stove, it suddenly became recategorized as an interesting abstract composition, art rather than mess. Finally, using the word reframing also distracts us from realizing that we can also accomplish recategorization directly, without changing scope or context with a frame. To summarize, the general word reframing can now be understood to include any intervention that changes someone's scope of experience in time or space, or how someone recategorizes the same scope, or by changing both scope and category. With this more detailed understanding, we can be more specific about how we can change meaning in different ways. Matching the same form. Matching someone's experience will be easiest if we notice the structure of how he or she thinks about it now, noticing which of the three forms best describes their experience. X causes Y. Cause effect. X go to Y. X is means Y. Equivalence. X equals Y. I, he or she, is 2X for Y context. X in Y. I, he or she, is 2X for Y context. X in Y. So he or she or I is Y. it's clear. Whenever you offer someone a new meaning, you are hoping to create a new linkage from the first scope of category X to a different scope of scope or category Z. When you offer someone a new meaning, you are hoping to create a new linkage from the first scope of category X to a different scope of or category Z, which the person wasn't previously attending to. Most people will find it much easier to accept a new meaning that is in the same form as their present meaning, because that will only be a change in the content. To illustrate how to reframe each of the three different kinds of meaning, I will use a typical relationship complaint and give examples of responding to each. The responses shown might not be convincing to some people. They are offered only as examples of how to do it, how to do it, how to do, how to do it, how to do it. Oh, okay. How to do it, how to do it, do, how to do it, how to do it. Young being, too late. From the start. You're being too late for our date makes me think means that you don't care about me. Cause effect. Your being late makes me think that you don't care about me. My lateness made you think that I didn't care, and that led you to question our relationship to be sure that it is still a caring one. My lateness made you think that I didn't care. And that led you to question our relationship to be sure that it is still a caring one. Equivalence. Your being late means that you don't care about me. Ah, I see. I see. So initial example, your being too late for our date makes me think means that you don't care about me. This sentence is some words in this sentence are outlined by square brackets. So, for example, your being bracket opens to bracket closes. Late bracket opens for our date bracket closes. Bracket opens makes me think bracket closes. Bracket opens means bracket closes that you don't care about me. So the words to and phrases for our date makes me think and the word means are the words that change this sentence from to switch this sentence between these three options, like causes, means, and context. So first, cause effect sounds like your being late makes makes me think that you don't care about me. It's the first option. It's cause-effect. It uses makes me think phrase from the brackets from the original example sentence. Reframing. My lateness made you think that I didn't care, and that led you to question our relationship to be sure that it is still a caring one. Now the equivalence. Your being late means that you don't care about me. So here the word means is used from the original example message. And it means the means word implies the equivalence. Now reframing. You thought that my lateness meant that I didn't care about you. You mean so much to me that I took the time to be sure I arrived home safely. You thought that my lateness meant that I didn't care about you. You mean so much to me that I took the time to be sure I arrived home safely. Context. You're being too late for our date, in the parenthesis, means that you don't care about me. You're being too late for our date. I'm sorry my lateness for our evening together made you concerned about my feelings for you. But lateness can be a good thing if you think of not arriving at all. I'm sorry my lateness for our evening together made you concerned about my feelings for you. But lateness can be a good thing if you think of not arriving at all. Change in significance experience. Let's go back to the context one more time. You are being too late for our date. I'm sorry my lateness for our evening together made you concerned about my feelings for you. But lateness can be a good thing if you think of not arriving at all. Change in significance experience. First, think of a complaint that you have or that someone in your life has made about you. Second, notice which of the three forms best describes this complaint. If you can't decide, change the wording a little so that if it fits one of the forms. X causes Y, X goes to Y. X means Y, equivalence. X equals Y. I, he or she is to X for Y context. X in Y. Cause effect. After identifying the existing cause effect, set it aside and think of another cause effect that is either implied by the statement or could exist in the event or category described by the statement. What else was a cause of this event or what else is likely to happen as a result of it. First, match the existing cause-effect and then lead to the new one you have selected. After identifying the existing cause-effect, set it aside and think of another cause-effect that is either implied by the statement or could exist in the event or category described by the statement. What else was a cause of this event, or what else is likely to happen as a result of it? First match the existing cause-effect and then lead to the new one you have selected. Equivalence. After identifying the existing equivalence, think of other equivalences that could be present. What else could this event mean? First, match the existing equivalence and then lead to the new one you have selected. Context. Identify the context the person is thinking of. This is often not stated, so you may have to ask if it is not obvious. Then separate the behavior from the context and set aside that context. Then think of a different context in which the behavior would be appropriate or advantageous. First match the present content and then make a statement about the event in the different context. Using a different form. At other times, it may be more useful to match the form of someone's current meaning and then lead into a different form, particularly if you think that it will be useful to expand what they already do. For instance, you could replace a cause-effect meaning with a different meaning based on equivalence or context, rather than another cause-effect. This may be a little more difficult for them because it is a change in process as well as content, but the resultant change in meaning may also be greater because it directs their attention to a scope that they have been ignoring, and this is likely to result